Okay, good morning. Yesterday we were talking about how to handle storing the data, because when we introduce this ability to change the first weekday, it suddenly affects how we store the data, because the data was stored using like the first day of the week as the key for storing the whole week. And awesome that I got feedback on this, suggestions, and it made me think more about this. And in other ways, maybe I wouldn't have. So one of the suggestions was to, like, you don't have to. You can still store the data, for example, based on the browser, where Sunday is index 0, and then you can rather load up as many weeks as you need to kind of represent what the application needs. So what the application needs is the ability to look at the current week, to kind of edit and plan that week. And then you have the ability at any point in time to plan the next week. And then you kind of look at the current week. So if we were going to still store it by week, so meaning by it's stored by Sunday key, you would kind of have to load, here are my hands, and kind of like load like previous, because you need the previous week as well to indicate in the UI what you did the previous week. So if I'm thinking about this correctly, we'll kind of have to add an extra week loading to the previous and add an extra week to the next, depending on which day you had. And I think like the principle here is that the data you store doesn't have to be reflected by the UI. They are two completely different things, and that's most certainly true. But what that got me thinking is why do I store it by week? Because it makes sense when the UI is exactly the same as the data. Then it kind of makes sense to store it by week. But if we're going to have this flexibility, maybe we shouldn't store it by week. Maybe we should just store each day. So the key isn't a week, it's a day. And that means that when whatever is your first week, your first day of week, we just go back 7 days and we go forward 7 days. 14 days. And then that's what you're working on. And then whenever you update like a weekday on some backlog item, it stores it on that specific day on that backlog item. And the power of that is now we suddenly have some more things we can do, like in terms of querying data. So we could like pick every Monday, for example, for a whole year. Like what do we do on Mondays? What do we do on Tuesdays? What do we do on Fridays? Like for a whole year. So I'm kind of intrigued by that idea. It does mean that it needs to fetch more data, but like it's Firebase, and it's like almost instant, especially when we do these specific queries on a specific key, and we can hide this behind an effect, I believe. Or it would at least be fun to explore this approach, because it kind of shows this nature of Firebase, where you typically think differently than what you would do with a traditional relations database. Yes. So I want to just explore that just for the fun of it, and also in terms of being more explicit. So in the code, you won't have this logic where you grab all these weeks and then you have lots of calculations or logic in the client kind of determining what range of this data am I actually going to look at, and then kind of change out, okay, so this user has Monday as the first day, but the data comes from the first day of Sunday, and then you kind of have to redistribute the data. So yeah, I just want to try this because it's so straightforward. It kind of pushes a bit on how Firebase, how you think in Firebase, and it also opens up new possibilities to actually look at data from the perspective of a day. Yes. So basically what we'll see here is, for example, 220, what's the, it's 3rd August. So you would see something like this, and then it will be an array of like backlog item 1, backlog item 2, like this. So what's kind of interesting now is that we can look at this and then, we can try to create an effect that kind of hides this, because we care about the previous week, the current week, and the next week. So we can create an effect that kind of gives us all the data for the previous week, but it actually does, like, it asks individual days and then kind of passes it back. And if there is a change to one of them, we are going to like update, send an update event for the whole week. I think. Okay, so that's the thing. Let me go to my profile on Codesandbox. Let's open the week planner. I hope that made sense. Like, currently this makes sense in my head. And this is kind of how the stream works. It's like the feedback is async. So I'm sorry if it's a little bit annoying if you have like a better idea that's obvious and you're kind of, but you should do this instead. Like the feedback loop is a little bit async, but sometimes, no matter, like it's good to just see other approaches and see what benefits it might give that you didn't think of, and stuff like that. So I feel like if I was working in a team on this, I wouldn't be this overriding, like, okay, we're going to do it like this. But yeah, I think that's important for a stream, that I'm kind of, that you are kind of piggybacking on, you're kind of sitting on my shoulder and kind of whispering into my ear, like, what about this? What about this? And then I kind of do the conscious decision. And later on, we are going to open up for contributions on this app. So then it's possible to go in and actually like create PRs and stuff. Cool. Yes. So what we are doing now, we have this backlog item where we wanted to update the week. And we still want to do that, but we want to be more explicit now. Instead of passing in the week UID, we are just going to say, what are we going to say? I guess update current week. And then we're going to pass in the days that you have chosen. Oh yeah, but this is a little bit tricky because you can also remove a day. Well, at this point you really can't remove a day, but later you can remove a day, which means that every time we change, so we have this week, we have the weekdays. So imagine, let's go back to the drawing. So imagine we're planning the next week. We have all the backlog items, a week for each backlog item. And then we add something, we tap it, and then we go to the database. Okay, but that makes sense. So instead of these weekdays actually building up this array, they actually trigger directly. So you tap something, it writes to the database directly. So if you untap it, it means that you should remove it from the database. So that makes sense. And we can have explicit effects for that. What's different about this? Where did my app go? What's different about this thing is that we are, we're kind of presetting the days. So what I think we can do here, we should use the same effect. So what we can do here instead is that we can just go through the active weekdays, and then we'll call the effect for oops. So we do it like this. Yes, and then we have update. Well, it's a day now. We're not updating the week, we're updating the day. Yes, by the way, we also talked about having this dynamic nature of whenever you enter the app, it kind of just shows you the next 7 days. But there's an important principle in this app that as a family, you have your routines, and those routines are batched into weeks. That's typically how families and people live their lives. So I think it's important for this app that you do look at it as like a batched thing. So you, no matter where in this week you have defined, you look at the app, you're in that week. It's the same perspective. It just moves the day within that week. Yes, so that you're not like always watching 1 week ahead. That will then it would lose its purpose, because you want this weekly planning, committing thing. I hope that makes sense. Yes, so we're just going to go through the weekdays, and then we're going to update that day. And I guess what we rather want to do here, we want to make this a reduce. So yeah, this is nice. Toggle weekdays promise. So what we're going to do is that we're going to, this is a little trick I do when I want to run multiple promises. Well, we're not going to reduce, we're going to map over it. If we wanted the toggling to happen one after the other, I will write a reduce. Maybe I should just show you that, because I think it's a really neat trick. Okay, so imagine you tap Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and for some reason you wanted one of them to finish writing before you ran the next one. And then I would do a reduce on the days, and I would start out with an empty promise. And then you receive that empty promise, and then I would do return, and then do then. And I would run like whatever update day, which will return a new promise. And that means that this becomes the new promise, which goes to the next day. So the aggregated thing here is now the promise of update day. And then we would wait for that and then return it and return it and return it. It's a really nice way to do like sequential async stuff. Starting out with an empty promise. So this is like the secret sauce of expressing it. You start with an empty promise. Anyways, we don't want to do it one after the other. We want to do all at the same time. So we can do a promise all here, and then we can rather map over these. So we have a weekday, and as if I remember correctly, we always store the weekdays by their browser representation. So it's easier for us to go and grab what date it represents. I'm pretty sure, maybe we should active weekdays, maybe we should comment that. Let's see, just let me check if that's actually what happens. Active weekdays. Weekday picker. Weekday picker. Active weekdays includes, so on change, on click, it's weekday index. Okay, so we're actually sending, yes, so we are sending, so we have a weekday mapping starting on Monday. So we will send one, yeah, So we'll send 1 when we actually click on change, which is correct. From the browser perspective, 1 is the index of Monday. So that means that we can, yeah, this is nice. Oh, could we do this down here? So what we're going to do is basically we need a utility to convert a weekday to the day of the current week or the next week, because that's where we're able to change the data. We're not able to change the data back in time, but we can change it for this week and for next week. So we should be able to take like a indexed browser day, pass it to a function. It gives us back the key or the UID for the data we're going to set on that that thing. And then we have, yes, cool. So let's do that. We started getting the current week UID, but we are rather going to get current week day UID. So it's going to be something like this. Let's change this into JavaScript representation. So we are not going to say like current Monday. We are just going to change current weekday. Weekday is a number. So the way we are going to do this is that we're going to create a new date, but then we're going to set the day. Can I set the day? No, I can only set the date. So how do we, maybe we should bring in date functions there. Yeah, like date functions is, we probably need it anyways. Let me add it here behind my face. Date functions is just a really awesome library. If you're using, what's it called? Moment, just stop using it. Use date functions instead, because Moment is mutable and does a lot of weird stuff. It's huge, while date functions is like the modern version of Moment. It's even the same people, I believe, at least one of them. And it's like shakeable, so you only use the functions you actually import. It's immutable. Everything's pure functions, meaning that whenever you call a function, you get a new date back. Call a function, you get a new date back, which is exactly, I've been into some like, what happened now using Moment. So basically what we want to do, we want to set the day. I wonder if there's a function that does that in date functions. Let's see. Date functions, set day. Set the day of the week. So yeah, so this is kind of funny. Like doing time and dates and stuff is so complex that it's like no matter how you express it, you kind of have to see an example. New date. Yeah. August. So what the hell is this? So Sunday, set Sunday to 1st of September 2014. 8. So that means, okay. So if I have, okay, so this is the 1st of September. Okay, this is the 1st of September 2014, and I'm giving it the day of the week, which means it moves it back to the 31st, because this was probably a Monday. They should have put that into, week starts on. Oh yeah. If week starts Monday, set Sunday. Okay, I think we just have to test this. I don't understand this documentation. The day of the week of the new date. That doesn't compute in my brain. Set day. So we're going to set day. We're just going to use the new date, and then we're going to use the weekday. And we'll just have to test it. Test this to see what happens. And then we have year. This should, oh yeah, it's full year here. Get full year. Oh yeah, I think maybe I think there's a format here as well. Search format. Accepted tokens. I always go to examples. I've never had, let's see, where are we? I've never been able to learn documentation by reading the technical representation. As you can see, I always scroll down to the example. And I wonder why that is, because some people prefer, I wonder if it's, yeah, I really wonder how we think differently about that. Some people like to kind of read the technical thing, and some people like to read the examples. I guess it ties back into, as I talked about school and stuff, I can't learn things theoretically. I need something practical. I need a situation, and then I kind of structure it into their technical parts, where I kind of build my own like mental bindings and representations of the isolated parts. But other people are much better at, okay, they're given these parts and what they represent, and they kind of just store that in their brain and kind of creates kind of this preset binding. They just put it into their brain, and then they can think about it in a practical way. I can't do that. I have to create my own bindings, if that makes sense. It's really fascinating. Yeah. Anyways, I think it kind of ties into this whole discussion on like what is creativity. So there are like if I'm going to be, I'm not saying that people are one or the other, but you could say that you have these people who are really good at learning stuff. Like it's insane at school. They just read something and they learn it. And it's kind of like they are able to consume this preset way of thinking, and they just put it into their brain, and then they're able to think about it. But if that means that you're unable to, or you're not as good at creating your own bindings for understanding something, it kind of ties into creativity. Because that is creativity. It's to not do what's been done before. It's kind of creating new bindings to understand and look at something. And maybe it's a practice thing, and then your brain kind of gets used to one of them, or what it finds most effective, and then it kind of gets good at that. Anyways, sorry, getting a bit off here. So, and this is what's really nice. So now we can say, we can format, we set the weekday, and want to format it as YY. How did I? Yeah, we're just going to put it one after the other, like this. So we can just return this, and we should have our, oops, I forgot the last one. Oh, yes. So this is super nice with date functions. We can remove this, and let's try get current weekday UID, or we can just log it out now. Get current. Let's see if it actually. from, I guess, where do we put our utils? There they are. Cool. So that is our thingies there. Let's not actually store anything. Add backlog item. Okay, let's see. Let's do this instead. We'll just return here, and we're just going to iterate through these things. See what happens. So if I were to hello, and I'm clicking add. Oh, am I missing something? Why didn't it run? Why didn't you run? Add backlog item. Nothing happened. Is it because... That's weird. That is weird. Yeah, nothing's happening. It's as if it doesn't run this. What is the state? Add backlog item. Auth is authenticated. And backlog item state is invalid. Oh, why is it invalid? Oh, my bad. Like it's moving to right back to invalid after we'd said that it's valid. So I guess we should rather say else here, because we used to have a return API here. That's why it suddenly broke here. I think we would have been much more. It would have been obvious if we had the same API all the time. Yeah, that's interesting. What the fudge? It still didn't work. Oh my god. Now I have an error. Why do I have an error? Maybe we should review our code a little bit here. Oh, maybe something happened during this thing and it went into an error state. Error state. Yeah, because it put back the... Yeah, do we actually have an error? Yeah, let's add the error. Error state, error equals error.message. So that we can see actually what happened there. Maybe there was a bug inside our get current weekday UID. Hey! What the fudge? What's happening here? Oh, what the frick? Oh, sorry. sorry. I just added here. Use YYY instead of YYY in. Okay. Okay. For formatting years. Okay, I guess I'll do that. Why did it say that? What's the difference? So why? There's no documentation on that. That's weird. But it did mention like a page. To the input. Why does it say that? popular mistakes. Causes most confusion. Huh. Wrong. Correct. Interesting. Interesting. But why are the month? Is the month this way? Why aren't those? Okay, I don't understand why, but I guess we just have to do that. Why? That was fascinating. Okay, so we're getting Thursday today is right, and then we're getting 14th. So that's working. That's really nice. We're getting our keys in a really straightforward, smooth way. So happy about that. Cool. So let's just finish it up, and then we can implement our. So we're going to map over this, and we are going to do like effects, update day, and we're going to pass the current weekday UID. And what we need to do is we want one API for this, and we might toggle it on and off. And what we're actually setting here is we're setting an array across backlog items. As I mentioned here in the Excali draw, we have multiple backlog items here. So what we need to do is we need to know if we are we need to update that array. That's the thing. If that's the best way to store it, I think so. Like we could store it as a map instead, where you had like the key is backlog item, and then it would have like true, so that you could just unset the thing. Now you can't really unset it because it's just an array, and there's no way to kind of do that. So that will kind of help the API a little bit, but it's still weird to have like a map here, and then you would just add like true to indicate that it's there. But again, it's kind of annoying that you have to, because then we kind of have to do a transaction, because we want the current value and update that consistently. But again, maybe we should have a map there. It avoids running transactions, because if it's a map, we don't have to know the current state of the array. We can just write directly to the weekday UID, the ID of the backlog item, where we either set it with true or we remove it. That's very straightforward. And then when we are looking at when we're looking at the day, we will receive this as a map with the value true. But I think maybe we should do that, because maybe later we want to add some metadata to that adding. So like you toggle something on the week, and then we want to add some metadata to that specific toggling. And if it's a map, it means that that true value can rather be another map, for example, with some data related to that specific toggle. So let's do that. So instead of having this structure, we're going to have this structure. Like it's going to be true now, but it means later that we can rather have an object with metadata. And it will basically work the same way. it wouldn't be hard to move into that space later. Yes, let's do that. Because now we also know that we're going to set set weekday, or set how do we express that? What we're doing is that we're setting a backlog item on a specific weekday. Set or toggle, no, not toggle. Set backlog item on weekday. That's basically what we're doing. And then there's a question, should we express weekday with a uppercase D or lowercase d? I guess we have uppercase now, weekday. Yeah, so that's what we're doing. We're setting the backlog item on the weekday. So we don't need this callback anymore. We just need to pass in the weekday and the ID of the document we have created. That's basically what we're doing. And then this effect will later, let's say, effect should add like 2020 13 UID, backlog item UID true. That's kind of what it's supposed to do. Okay, I think we'll stop there for now. Yes, again, I'm just overriding a little bit here. If you have any questions around this approach, I think it could be done better. Please comment, and I will make sure that I at least bring it up. But I try to make this partly doing kind of the right thing, but also try to explore different ways of doing things, because I think that's more interesting, because it kind of brings up, it's more educational, I think, and inspirational than kind of saying that this is how you should do it. Anyways, thanks a lot for following along. I think this is turning out pretty good. I feel like confident moving on with this. So have a great day, and I guess we'll talk more tomorrow. Cool. Bye bye.